6.6 million unemployment claims last week. 6.6 million in 1 week. In 1 week. Last week was 3 million, which was the highest ever in recorded history. So we had the highest ever recorded history last week. And then the next week, this past week, was double the worst ever in history. This is what exponential growth looks like. We keep hearing about exponential growth. Well, here you go. This is what it looks like. By the way, that 3 million figure was about 4 times worse than the previous worst ever recorded, and that was in 1982. And it was also more than 4 times worse, the worst recorded during the Great Recession 10 years ago. So this now, and then the 6 million number, I know there's a lot of math, hope I'm doing all this right, but the 6 million number then is about 10 times worse than the worst that had ever been recorded previous to the economic shutdown. Which brings us nice and symmetrically to 10 million unemployed people officially in 2 weeks. And I emphasize officially because that doesn't account for all the many millions of people who don't qualify for unemployment, haven't applied, or tried to apply and weren't able to get through because the websites are crashing all over the country and the phone lines are jammed. So what's the actual number? The actual number is much higher than 10 million in 2 weeks. Which means that the situation is much worse than it looks, and it looks catastrophic. Now, you probably don't need me to keep rephrasing the numbers in different ways, but here's another way of looking at it. 10 million jobs lost in 14 days averages over 700,000 jobs a day lost. Which means we're losing more jobs in a day than we lost in a week during the peak of the recession 10 years ago. And these numbers, despite what you may hear, do not represent simply lost money. It represents ruined lives. It represents suffering. It represents mothers and fathers who can't feed their kids. So at this point, anyone who responds to concerns over the economic situation by saying, you're putting money over people, anyone who responds that way must either be a sub 65 IQ moron or a liar. Because there's just no way that a rational, honest, intelligent person could fail to understand, could look at 10 million unemployed people in 14 days, 700,000 a day, and not understand why we're worried about it. I'm not saying that you have to be dumb or lying to disagree with my position, that we should try to reopen the economy. I'm not saying that if you support the shutdowns, you're dumb or a liar. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to be dumb or lying to argue that those of us who want to reopen the economy while taking precautions at the same time are a bunch of greedy money grubbers. How could but you still hear this. You're still going to hear this. 10 million unemployed people, you're still going to hear the argument, quote unquote, that if you are raising economic concerns, you're putting money over people, you don't care about people's lives. And most of the people saying that, they're not sub 65 IQ morons. Some of them are. Most of them are just liars. They're trying to shut you down. They don't want this discussion. And then you really have to start questioning their motives, especially if we're dealing with people in the media. Why are they so desperate to prevent us from having this discussion and talking about where we're headed economically and projecting, all this projecting going on? Well, projecting what this will look like in 2, 3, 4, 5 months. The hope, of course, is that somehow everything will quickly and quietly and easily just pop back into place when all this is over. Like a dislocated shoulder or something. You pop it back into place and go about your day. Economy opens up, jobs come back, companies resurrect themselves from the dead like a mass Easter miracle. And in the meantime, the government just spends a few $1 trillion here, a few $1 trillion there to keep the wheels churning. That's the hope that a lot of people have. And I hope that it happens too. I have no choice but to hope that. Of course, I hope that that's what will happen. Is it impossible? No, of course it's not impossible. It is possible in the sense that anything that is not inherently illogical is therefore possible. I mean, it's possible that a kangaroo could sprout wings and fly across the outback. It's possible, technically. Probably not going to happen. And with this, the idea that the economy is going to easily, quickly snap back into place. Possible, very unlikely though, I would think. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.